Substance. Hello, what is up everybody? My name is Chris, and today I will be talking to you about the history of editing. This film would cover all the basics, all the way from the history from Edward Muybridge all the way up to nowadays. You should be able to see me in the top right hand corner about now. Hey, how are you? Anyway, let's begin. Let's start with the magic lantern. The magic lantern. These old devices were used by specialists back in the end of the 19th century as a way to project stories to show everyone. The images were drawn by hand. Unfortunately, they were quickly subdued by governments as a way to exploit propaganda to people. However, even though they were of bad use, Edward Muybridge decided to experiment on if horses do take all 4 feet off the ground. He went about this by taking multiple shots with 12 magic lanterns, then pointing them together to create a moving image, which proved his theory. As this was the first of its kind, by using multiple copper imagery they were the first ever short moving images. Now, this is my own version of the Muybridge experiment. The way I took these photos was by taking individual shots, and between each shot I moved to a different angle or position. This is slightly different to how Muybridge did it. However, the principle is still basically the same. On to the Lumiere brothers. The Lumiere brothers were both born in Lyon, in France. During education they pursued an interest in photography and cameras. In 1894, after seeing Thomas Edison's kinetoscope, we'll get onto that later, they both decided to invent their own style of camera and develop the study of cinema called cinematography. They used both their cine cameras and a magic lantern producing footage. So this is the example from the very first footage, which is exiting the factory. The footage caught was of workers leaving the factory. However, the Lumiere brothers did not have all the technology to edit this, so it was continuous short clips which last about 50 seconds long. But they were going down as the first actual film animation. Now on to George Méliès, sorry for the pronunciation. George Méliès was born in Paris in 1861 and attended École des Beaux-Arts in Paris, which was an art school for gifted children. Later in life he became a full-time theatrical showman specialising in illusion. After seeing the Lumiere brothers present their cine camera in 1895, Méliès decided to look into the further potential aspects of film. He discovered that cinema had the compatibility of manipulating and distorting time and space. He expanded on, and his initial ideas were to devise some complex, completely special effects. And this is an example of his work, where it's a man pretending to be a magician, taking his head off every now and then, but that was one of the first ever edits out there. Now on to the man himself, Thomas Edison. Acted as a huge catalyst to the film industry, he was responsible for the creation of the kinetoscope in 1888, where it was short motion pictures for a period of time. This became a successful entertainment industry in less than a decade. Edison then went to create a business known as Thomas A. Edison Incorporated. This not only just built the apparatus for filming, but also produced the films. This became a very popular outcome, and produced some of the most classic and well-known films of all time. Edwin S. Porter. Born on April 21st, 1870 in Philadelphia. In 1900, Porter joined the Edison Manufacturing Company and gradually got into the film producing industry. He started out as a cameraman and director for the vast majority of Edison's productions. In 1903, Porter directed 2 famous films, The Great Train Robbery and The Life of an American Fireman. Both of these films are almost like the starting point of blockbusters in Hollywood, with the unique effects and film styles. Both of these films were a huge success, and the visual effects and camera angles are still used today. So here's the footage from the Here's the footage from the Great Train Robbery. In 1909, he left to form his own company called Defender, and directed many more films which were watched by many and enjoyed by all. On to Sergei Eisenstein. Sergei Eisenstein was a Russian film director in the early 20th century, who focused mainly on Russian propaganda, known as the father montage. Sergei used very unique and detailed film editing techniques to display the propaganda. He was a pioneer in the use of montage and multiple cuts, which allowed him to use the use of montage to come into the essence of cinema. His ideas were colliding shots, we all know as cuts, could be used to manipulate the audience and create film metaphors. And here's the clip of his famous film October, which is loads of different shortcuts into one which demonstrate his montage. As you can see, the multiple cuts indicate the power and the dominance of the revolution. However, it probably didn't all turn out to be like this. On to Kuleshov. Lev Kuleshov is known to all Russian filmmakers as the father of Soviet cinema. As he was one of the only film producers before the revolution, Kuleshov was distinguished as the creator of montage. His most renowned theory was the effect of cuts, that one could display the same emotional attitude and expression, but to two completely different scenarios. It allows us, as the audience, to understand in much more detail the personality being portrayed by the character, and how the same expression can have a totally different meaning, as you've seen in this clip. Now on to D.W. Griffith. D.W. Griffith was a famous American director in early 20th century. His expertly directed films allowed him to become a lot more popular and become a source of entertainment. He was the most famous for his production of the Ku Klux Klan called The Birth of a Nation, which with its false motifs and misunderstood culture was also regarded the most racist film of all time. However, behind the many racist aspects, Griffith did have some nice camera shots and editing techniques of the time, as you can see through these clips. David Fincher. David Fincher is a well-established film producer who directed films from Fight Club to Panic Room. He is a modern-day director. Being a well-established producer, Fincher had in many ways developed his own style of film, which is classical film noir, which means black in French, if you don't know. These portray a dark and gloomy side to the film, but also indicating an act of suspense involving all the key aspects of an action film, but placing them in a thriller. A very big step for the editing world of film. Now finally, I'm closing into the end, but onto nowadays technology of film. Nowadays, technology of film has advanced a lot over the past century, even decade. We now introduce new ways of presenting film to the audience, such as 3D, which is 3-dimension. This allows the audience to feel more involved with the movie itself and possibly react with the film to increase suspense, fear and realism. Today, technology is at its peak of creation, and film in general is the most favourite way of entertainment. But this would not have happened if it wasn't for the creators and catalysts of the film during the late 19th century and early 20th century. Now before I go, I would like to thank you for watching. Everything that I took was all copyright free, there was no copyright included. Everything was from YouTube. There's one sound effect from Free Sounds, and there was a song from YouTube as well. Thank you.